Gorgeous. What we have here is a dumpling preparation, chicken dumpling, chopped up chicken meat, spiced up a little bit, encased in some pasta, and served with some different textural elements. It's cabbage, roasted chili pieces, a couple types of sprouts, one for a cleansing effect, one for a little bite, and finally, the ultimate touch, I have a ginger and soy and hijiki seaweed broth. This is exotically spiced, all the flavors wafted up as I pour it over. This is just outrageous. A few sprouts to finish for some more texture and a little bit of color. This dish is so easy, and there are so many possibilities. We're going to go and make this thing. Here's a great chicken dumpling dish with a little bit of heat to it and a fantastic sauce that has seaweed as a base. First thing we're going to do is start the sauce. I want to get a little oil in my pan, a little bit of grapeseed oil or any neutrally flavored oil that has a high breaking point. Canola oil's nice. Going to use a little sesame oil for flavor. I don't want this to be too strong with sesame flavor. We're going to add a mixture of equal parts ginger and garlic, jalapeno and shallot, and just let that stew for a minute. I'm going to stir that around. The combination of these flavors, once they've been lightly sauteed and then flavored with the rest of the ingredients, is going to be stunning. While that's going, we'll assemble a few of the dumplings. You can get some great wonton wrappers now. They come fresh or frozen. I prefer the fresh. Once they're frozen, they can sometimes get a little soggy, a little waterlogged, a little difficult to work with, but especially if you live in a city that has a nice Chinatown population like Chicago or San Francisco or New York, you can go to one of the neighborhood groceries, get great wonton wrappers of all different sizes. These are pretty standard. I found them at the regular supermarket. When they're fresh, it's just like a very, very delicate sheet of pasta. I've rubbed the edges of this with a simple egg wash mixture, eggs beaten together with water. My filling is already cooked, so I've been able to adjust the seasoning to how I like it. If I like more heat, I can stir in some more chili paste. What I did was take chicken breast meat, chop it up, marinate it with the chili paste, add a little bit of hoisin and some garlic. I'm going to deglaze this now, just a little bit with some rice wine vinegar. And a little bit of mirin, a sweet rice wine vinegar. Should be able to create a nice balance with those two flavors. And I can smell the ginger, the jalapeno. If I want this more fiery, I can add more chili. Sometimes when I'm in the mood, I add a lot more garlic, and it just gives me that really nice, robust flavor. And we're going to let that simmer for just a moment here while we assemble these dumplings. Simply fold them over. A lot of different possibilities for shapes here. The classic triangle is easy enough to do. These can be done a little bit in advance if you wish, save a little time. Sometimes you can get fancy and make more of an Italian tortellini type of shape. But I like this shape. Easy to pick up if you want to use your fingers. So we have a little stack of dumplings here, ready to go. We're going to keep on working on our sauce. I'm going to add some seaweed now. This is hijiki seaweed. The sea is a huge possibility for us. These things are loaded with nutrients, that is seaweeds, very, very flavorful, adapt very well for broths, things like that. In this case, the hijiki seaweed has an almost haunting elegance to it. It's certainly got this wonderful texture, this delicate chewiness, and it adapts very, very well to a variety of seafood and vegetable preparations. I've added a little bit of tamari. That's a mushroom soy sauce. Regular soy would work as well. We just want that to stew for a few moments. And the next step is to cool it down. I have a simple water bath. I'm able to take this off the heat. We're going to spoon it into this bowl, which sits in the water bath. The idea is to cool this down a little bit. Now I could very easily turn this into a broth. In this case, I want the texture of the seaweed, of the little crunchy pieces of the, not quite crunchy, but ever so slightly crispy pieces of the garlic and the ginger and the chili that I've started to saute with. And let me taste this and make sure we've got the right balance basically here. I think we do. I think we do. I'd like to add another little splash of mirin. I don't need too much. I'm imagining this to be a little stronger than maybe you would want it normally, because once I do add the mayonnaise product, it will end up taming this a little bit. So we do want this to be able to absorb the mayonnaise and still have a lot of character. This is a homemade mayonnaise. Of course, there are some very high quality, clean, natural mayonnaise products available in the marketplace. A lot of natural food stores have some good products. We're just going to spoon a little bit of this in. We can make this any thickness, really. I want this to be thick enough where I can just drizzle it on and be all set to go with it. Have it cling to all the vegetables. Stir that in there. Let me just try this again and make sure. Got to taste, taste, taste. That's the golden rule. That is, I think, right where we need it to be. So we'll leave that here on the side. And now we're ready to get our vegetables stir-fried. We're going to start with, again, a little bit of a neutral oil, like the canola oil. Just get this in the pan, nice and hot. Woks with handles are certainly a lot easier to work with. You can grab it. And we're going to add a little sesame again, like before, where we will use this for flavor. We're going to start with vegetables that take a little bit longer to cook. Carrot, snow pea, a couple pieces of bell pepper. You can use some chopsticks and stir that up real quick. One of the ideal results of a proper stir fry is that we get these nice crispy vegetables, things that are just cooked but crispy, crunchy. We've got some mushrooms, any type of mushroom. These are oyster mushrooms, also known as pleurote. You find that even a few years ago, a mushroom like this was considered gourmet or exotic or hard to come by. It's really not that way. It's these days you can find these mushrooms in stores and marketplaces all over the country. So the pleurotes are in the pan. For a little bite, we have some scallion or green onion. Baby leeks would be great. Any type of sprout, mung bean sprouts. These add a nice crispy texture to things, keeping it fresh and light. I can go ahead and add just a couple more drops of sesame oil if I want. That'll be nice. That flavor is nice. Here we go with some fresh water chestnuts. When you find these at the store, they're such a treat. All you have to do is boil them for about 10 minutes, peel the skin away, cut them into a little julienne, as I've done here. And again, kind of like the sprouts, they add this refreshing crunch, really, really elegant. So at this point, our stir fry is ready to go. I could certainly finish this with some tamari if I want to. I'm not going to because I've got a very full flavored sauce. I think just a couple drops of rice wine vinegar will go on here. Just one more time around. Little bit of salt. Easy on the salt because we have tamari in the main sauce. Keep in mind that when I do add a little bit of liquid, this of course will steam. So that's a nice way to sort of finish the cooking. I've got my plate. This is a great dish to use a fun plate with. This slate works perfectly for something like this. I can literally just spoon my vegetables right out onto the work surface here, onto my plating area. And this becomes my the bed for my wontons. I'm just going to lay them on here. So the wontons will sit on this interesting bed with all these crunchy textures and flavors. And now we're ready to cook up our wontons. Grapeseed oil again. Actually, this time we're going to cook more like a light fry. Not a deep fry, certainly not a stir fry. But we're going to use a little bit more oil than we did before. I've got about a 1/4 inch of oil in the pan. I've got my sesame oil to help flavor the grapeseed oil. I'll take my wontons and I'm going to carefully lay these in here. And these will cook up very, very quickly. And keep in mind, of course, that the inside is thoroughly cooked. So really, the plan here is just to cook the surface, the exterior, the skin, and create a nice crispy exterior. It'll sort of bubble and turn golden brown. You want to be careful when you're cooking with oil at a high temperature like this because things can splatter. So just want to watch yourself. This just takes a moment. Just going to swirl the oil around. And I think we're ready to remove these really right over here to our side area. It's nice to be able to blot these off. They're not going to be oily or greasy, but they'll have a little residue of oil, and if we just set them down on a cloth or a napkin for a moment, all of that will come off, and they'll be fairly dry. I can't think of anybody that doesn't like nice fried, crispy food like this. I mean, this is pretty special. a presentation or plating couldn't be easier. I mean, it's just nothing more than lining these things up, and we'll take some of our drizzling sauce, ginger, soy, the jalapeno, and probably just the greatest flavor for something like this, the hijiki seaweed. Doesn't take any special feet to drizzle this on. Can use as much or as little as I like. We can set this out right when the guests arrive. They can have a little treat. Or we can set this down in the center of the table and have a little platter of family-style dumplings. Remember, the dumplings, although we use chicken, can certainly be filled with a vegetable item, wild mushrooms. They can be filled with anything, pork. But chicken works very, very well. It's great in the marinade. And if we want to finish this with a few herbs, this is easy enough. Cilantro is a perfect companion for this. I could even go back and finish. I've got some beautiful sprouts. These are snow pea sprouts, kind of echoing the snow pea theme. A little bit more color, and we've got something that's, I think, really kind of a fun, playful plate. Here's our chicken dish. Not a poached dumpling, not a steamed dumpling, lightly fried, served in an Asian style. The seaweed-based sauce, very simple, as a dipping sauce or a drizzling sauce or as a broth. Pretty straight ahead. I think we can all do this at home. But you know what? I think it's time for us to now make something maybe a little bit more sensual, a little bit more involved. One of the great treats in all of cooking is the roasted chicken. I have a chicken here that's been trussed. It's lined with truffle under the skin. Here's a duck that's tied, a pheasant, squab, even grouse, which is a rare treat in the autumn and into the winter, even some quail. The process for tying a chicken, or really any game bird, is the same. The idea is to season the bird, flavor the bird with aromatics, whether we're using just herbs on the inside and a little bit of garlic, or whether we're using black truffles, and then to tie the bird up into a nice uniform little package. Real simple, some string just wrapped around the legs. Going to carefully bind this. I don't want to tie it too tight because that will result in an uneven cooking process where the bird is actually thoroughly cooked on the breast but underdone on the leg portion. So if it's just a little loose, snug enough for me to work with. The idea of trussing a bird also allows me to get a beautiful shape when the bird is roasted. It'll end up being perfectly shaped. I'm going to cover this with a little bit of oil here, oil flavored with herbs, and a little bit of seasoning. Now I could even put some stuffing on the inside, some wild rice or another grain, quinoa would be great, or a little bit of cornbread stuffing, but it's all the same. We tie it up into a nice little tight shape, roast it in the oven, and the results are really stupendous. Look at these birds. I've got a pheasant, I've got duck. This is great, covered in black pepper. I've got the grouse, beautiful with the big red wine, the chicken, unbelievable. This is blowing my mind right now. We got to go roast a bird, come on. Our birds are done, thoroughly roasted. Got them on my rack, sitting above a few vegetables. The vegetables actually give off a little steam, a little aroma to help flavor the birds along the way. These are Cornish game hens, which are like very delicate little chickens. They've got a very tender, succulent white meat. Along the way, aside from turning these birds, I was able to baste them with this herb-strewn olive oil, giving me this really nice golden color, also saturating the birds with this rich olivey flavor and the flavor of the herbs, turning a few times, getting the beautiful golden skin ready to go. All I want to do is let the birds rest for maybe 10 minutes. Just let them relax a little bit. That'll give us more succulent meat. A great accompaniment for something like this is a potato pave. This is a potato and sweet potato pave. I start by slicing potato very thinly. One of these Japanese mandolins is very, very helpful. Many, many slices. Toss them in some cream. The idea with the cream is I'm not going to make something that's a rich custard, but the cream itself will lightly coat these potato pieces, and I'm able to use the cream as sort of a, if you will, a binding agent. It'll actually keep all the layers together when I cook this. Furthermore, it'll add this richness, which is just spectacular. I've got layers of sweet potato, layers of potato, on and on. A little bit of herb in between the layers as I go. Every layer, every other layer if I wish. Parsley like this is great. Tarragon is really fantastic as well. If I can also maybe do a little twist of pepper between the layers to add a little bite. The bite will really cut into all of this quite nicely. So the process goes like such. We're simply going to lay these across each other, almost a shingling effect. And once we have everything ready, we just pop this in the oven. I started by thoroughly buttering the inside of this pan and then adding my layers. Straight potato is fine. I've even done this before where I've done layers of potato and mushroom for potato and mushroom pave. Sweet potato is a great treat though, and the sweetness present with the sweet potato really is such a great companion to something like a roasted bird, especially in the fall when you're just craving something, I think, a little bit richer. So we have this beautiful pave, just enough cream. You see it's not oozing with cream. I'll come back and add a little more pepper and just a final sprinkle of herb. And all I need to do is cover this with some foil, aluminum foil here, thoroughly push this down. And this is really a two-step process. So the first part is we're going to put this in a 350-degree oven for about an hour and a half. And when we take it out, we want to let it cool down, and then we're going to put it in the refrigerator and let it just sit overnight. And once we have that, it's ready to go. This is good for two reasons. Number one, we get this done, it's out of the way. Second of all these flavors marry superbly when this has a chance to sit overnight. All I need to do is loosen this from the inside of the pan. You'll find a stickless pan is quite nice, or a regular roasting pan will work. You just have to use a little bit more butter when you cover the inside. And once I do this, I'm able to turn this out. Here's a technique I use for turning out a lot of things. I have a pan lined with a little parchment paper. I'm going to put this on top. This is great for turning out cakes or really anything that you want to keep in its whole form. We're just going to flip it over really quickly. Maybe just pat it a little bit. And then we have the pave. And that's ready to go. I can cut this in any shape I want to. Sometimes it's fun to maybe take a ring cutter and cut a little circular shape. The pave is really the French term for brick. So what we have here is a little brick, essentially, of potato. Now certainly we could pop this in the oven and heat it through when we're ready to use it. I actually like to saute it first. Saute both sides and just kind of get a crispy exterior, because the inside is so buttery, melt away soft, that by getting a little crispy exterior we get a contrast going. So we're going to take our potato here, and as you can see, when I remove a piece, it's really not as you would think, well, it's got to be saturated with cream. It's not at all. The little bit of cream that was used was thoroughly absorbed within, and the result is something that's just beautiful layers of potato and sweet potato. Now to saute these pave pieces, we start with a pan at a medium-high flame, a little bit of oil, and we're able to just place these pieces right in the pan. And to really help with the browning, maybe a little bit of butter will be nice. Just kind of melt it around there. We'll just let that go for a few moments and get a nice brown exterior. As it's warming through, we'll flip it over and we'll be able to get both sides nice and golden brown, which will also give us that wonderful crispy, crunchy exterior that we desire. Set that back here. To make our sauce, we have chicken stock that we've reduced a little bit, and we're going to take some mustard. I like stone ground mustard or Pomeray mustard for this preparation. Just want to whisk this in. This will also give this body, aside from the mustard flavor, we're going to get a little bit of body from this, so we don't have to reduce the chicken stock too much. And I'm going to put in a piece of butter and let that melt as I whisk it in here. This will add a little bit of body also. And we have some ginger. This is kind of like the ginger you'd find in a sushi bar, where it's got almost a preserved or sweet and sour effect. After cooking this in a simple sweet and sour brine, finely julienne it. I'm going to put a few pieces in here and stir that in. Now we've got to taste it. Make sure that we've got the right, basic right flavor. I think it can use a little bit more of a bite. So I'm actually going to pour some of that ginger juice in there. Just a little bit of the ginger juice. and a touch of salt. And I think we're going to be ready. You know, the other thing that might be nice, thyme. Really any kind of fresh herb. Tarragon is great with mustard and with poultry. I love thyme. We're ready to flip our pave here very carefully. Just going to stick a spatula in and turn it over here. And that's got this beautiful golden color. It's just warming through on the inside. We're going to get both sides nice and golden. And really all we need to finish this dish, something like green beans or haricot vert, yellow wax beans, barely cooked through, salt, some herbs, and I think we're ready to put together this plate. We've got our sauce and our green beans. Let's get a piece of the pave. This one looks great. Set this over here. And we've got a chicken. We've got a bird. Let's pick this one up. First thing we need to do is take the twine off. A scissors or a small knife will do that just fine. Two ways to serve this. One is the rustic style. We can serve the whole bird right on the plate. That's easy enough. If you want to do some of the work for your guests, we can bone it out a little bit and serve the bird in some pieces. Now, I think that this bird could easily work as a single serving for one, or if we're serving a first course or a dessert course, I can't imagine not serving a dessert course, we might want to serve a half a bird per person. I like to leave the skin on. I love the flavor. We've gone to all the trouble to get this crispy skinned bird, so we ought to leave it on, I think. And you can see the meat just comes right off. Once we remove the other breast and other leg, we ought to save the carcass or the frame. It makes just a great little broth or stock. I've got my leg and thigh here. Going to just glide my knife right through, and what I want to do is remove the bone. It should come right out. Don't have to do much. And we have this boned out thigh and our beautiful leg, so that becomes part of the dish. We have the breast. We can remove part of this wing if we want to, and we can leave this whole, or maybe we'll cut this just a little bit on a bias. I think that'll be kind of a nice way to put it on the plate. So we'll end up with 4 pieces that are all about the same size, which certainly will make it easy to do a nice presentation. Take our plate, start with our pave in the center of the plate, and we can come over and grab our haricot vert or green beans. Just sort of spoon these around. Really in any fashion. These are nice because they add a great texture to everything that's going on the plate. As many or as little as we like. Or perhaps this is served in a side dish and people can help themselves. I like to pretty much get everything on the plate and serve the finished plate. Then we're ready to place our ingredients around, our pieces of the bird. We've got our 2 pieces of breast meat. We've got our leg meat. So it's just kind of free form around the edges of the plate. For our sauce, we'll kind of come back and just spoon this on. It's nice to get those ginger strands just to sort of drape themselves over the meat itself. And that's about all we need. You can use as much or as little sauce as you want, but I think you'll find that a little goes a long way. Maybe a twist of pepper will be a nice touch. If we want to add a few herbs, a little bit of parsley, gives it some color and a little refreshing flavor. You know, I don't think you need much more than maybe a glass of Côte Rôtie or possibly an Oregon Pinot Noir. Boy, I don't know if I can help myself. I'm going to have to dig right in here. Thank you for joining us on the Kitchen Sessions. We will see you next time. It just cuts like butter. I got to try the beans with it. The texture on this is just a great contrast.
The Kitchen Sessions companion book contains all of Charlie's recipes from this series, plus an additional 95 new recipes. Available for $29.95 plus shipping and handling, this beautiful book contains more than 30 color photographs. Also available are videocassette copies of the series. Priced at $19.95 plus shipping and handling, each volume contains several series episodes. To order the book or videocassette, you may call 800-999-0169.